When my parents told me I was getting married, I honestly thought it was a bad joke. I mean, I was 26, an artist living my best chaotic life in New York. I burned toast for breakfast and painted until the sun came up. An arranged marriage in the 21st century. But my father, ever the businessman, just said it's a business alliance. Like he was discussing a merger, not my entire future. The Lee family from Seoul, old friends, their son runs a tech empire. A week later, I was on a plane to Seoul, my heart doing acrobatics in my chest. His name was Ji-hoon Lee, the billionaire CEO of LYNX Technologies. I'd Googled him on the flight. He had one of those perfect, sculpted faces and eyes so cold they could freeze the Han River. The internet called him the Ice Prince of Seoul. Great I was being shipped off to marry a human glacier. The first time I met him, he was even more intimidating in person. He wore a suit that probably cost more than my entire New York apartment. But then he bowed and said, "I understand, this isn't your choice either." And just like that, a tiny bit of the tension in my shoulders eased. He was polite, distant, almost professional. There was no awkward flirting, no forced charm. It felt strangely safe. We shook on it like partners in a very strange business deal. We'd go through with the marriage for our families, stay together for 6 months, and then go our separate ways. No feelings, no drama. A clean, simple contract. But life is never that simple, is it? A few weeks into our pretend marriage, I started hearing things. Whispers that followed me at every high society event. "Mr. Lee, oh, he's gay." At first, I laughed it off. It seemed too ridiculous. But then I started noticing things. The way he dodged personal questions, the way his eyes would drift past beautiful women and settle on the distant city lights, lost in thought. He never touched me, not even by accident. So one night, sitting across from him at another one of our silent dinners, the question just tumbled out of my mouth. "But you're gay, aren't you?" He froze, his fork hovering midair. For a second, I thought he was going to explode. Instead, a slow, infuriating smirk spread across his face. And he said, "Until you find out." And then he just went back to eating his dinner, leaving me completely stunned. What did that even mean? The days that followed were a whirlwind of confusion. Suddenly, this cold, distant man was there. He started driving me to my art studio. He'd make breakfast, leaving it on the counter with a quiet "eat before it gets cold." He wasn't romantic, not in the grand, sweeping movie-style way. But his quiet gestures felt like little sparks of warmth escaping from under the ice. One afternoon, I fell asleep sketching in his massive home office. When I woke up, there was a soft blanket draped over me, and he was sitting at his desk, typing silently, the clicking of the keys the only sound in the room. "You'll catch a cold," he murmured, without even looking up from his screen, and my heart did this weird little flutter. For a man who was supposedly incapable of loving a woman, he was surprisingly good at these small, caring acts. Still, the rumors followed us everywhere. At every gala, every dinner, I could feel the stares, hear the whispers. Why would a man like Ji-hoon Lee, a man who could have anyone, tie himself to a foreign artist he barely knew? The question echoed in my own mind. The breaking point came after a huge business gala. The whispers were louder than ever that night. Back home, I finally confronted him. You know, you could have just said no. Ji-hoon, you don't need this arrangement. You don't need me. He just stared at me for a long, quiet moment, his expression unreadable. Then he said, so softly I almost missed it, you think I did this for my parents? I did this because I wanted to. My brain short-circuited. That made absolutely no sense. But you didn't even know me, I argued, my voice shaking a little. And that's when he smiled. A real, genuine smile that completely transformed his face and made the whole room feel warmer. That's where you're wrong, he said. He walked over to the window, looking out at the glittering Seoul skyline. 5 years ago, he began, his voice distant, you were painting on a street in Hongdae. A girl with paint-splattered hands and clothes, passionately telling a group of tourists how every single brushstroke was like a heartbeat. I was there. I couldn't breathe. I remembered that day so clearly. The sun was setting. I was exhausted, but so happy. A quiet, well-dressed man had stopped and bought one of my paintings. He paid double what I asked for and then just disappeared into the crowd before I could properly thank him. My jaw dropped. That was you. He nodded, turning back to face me. I wanted to know what kind of person could create so much beauty in a world that so often buys and sells lies. That night, everything changed. We talked until the sun came up, sharing secrets we'd never told anyone. We talked about our dreams, our loneliness, the crushing weight of other people's expectations. He told me the rumors weren't entirely lies. I have loved men, he admitted, his voice quiet but steady. But love doesn't follow rules. It doesn't fit into neat little boxes. I didn't expect you. I didn't plan for you. I just sat there, tears welling up in my eyes as this huge realization washed over me. For the first time in my life, someone had truly chosen me. Not because I was a good match, not because it made sense on paper, but because I had changed their entire plan. After that night, our marriage wasn't a contract anymore. It was real. We became partners in every sense of the word. We traveled the world together. We argued over silly things and laughed until we cried. We healed each other's old wounds. He would come to my chaotic art shows and stand proudly in the corner, and I would sit through his mind-numbingly long board meetings, doodling in a notebook. One evening, I was painting on our balcony, with the Seoul sunset painting the sky in gold and pink. He came up behind me, wrapping his arms around my waist and resting his chin on my shoulder. He whispered in my ear, "You were right. I was gay, until I found out that love doesn't care about what you were. It only cares about who you become." Years later, we had a small private wedding on a rooftop overlooking the Han River. No press, no big crowd. Just us, a few close friends, and the city that had watched our unlikely love story unfold. My parents came, completely stunned to see me so radiantly happy with the man they thought was impossible to love. And when Ji-hoon gave his vows, his voice, usually so steady, trembled just a little. He looked right at me and said, "Love isn't about who you were expected to love. It's about who finally feels like home." So yes, I once looked my husband in the eye and said, "But you're gay." And he just gave me that quiet, defiant smile and replied, "Until you find out." And I did. I found out that love isn't straight, or simple, or predictable. It's messy, and it's complicated, and it's beautifully, breathtakingly real. It's the kind of force that can make an ice prince melt and make a guarded, cynical artist believe in happy endings again. And in the end, maybe that's the only label that ever really matters. Not gay, not straight, not arranged, just human, and just in love. Thanks for watching.